The message echoed through every channel across Earth: submit or your world will burn. The council room went silent, hope draining from every face. Then General Marcus Hale stood up, stared directly into the camera, and spoke 5 words that would echo through history. You want war? We'll give you a war. The Zarkith Dominion had conquered the Outer Rim like a plague, consuming healthy tissue. 5 worlds in 8 months. Each one given the same choice: kneel or burn. Each one that resisted was reduced to glass and ash within days. Their fleet was a monument to brutality, kilometer-long dreadnoughts bristling with plasma arrays, fighter swarms that blocked out stars, and the kind of casual cruelty that came from never knowing defeat. Earth wasn't supposed to be on their list. Too far from the front lines. Too primitive by galactic standards. Too irrelevant. Until humanity made the mistake of sheltering refugees. The first Zarkith message was almost polite by their standards. Surrender the Altarian survivors. Earth has 72 hours to comply. The UN Security Council had debated for 71 of those hours. They sent diplomats with counteroffers. The Zarkith sent them back in boxes, one piece at a time. They reached out to allies. Former friends suddenly stopped answering calls. The Galactic Council issued a statement of deep concern and did nothing else. When the deadline passed, the Zarkith fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system like a promise of death. 300 warships. Enough firepower to crack continents. Their final transmission was broadcast on every frequency. In every language impossible to ignore. Earth has chosen poorly. Surrender unconditionally, or we will demonstrate why 5 worlds chose submission over annihilation. You have 1 hour. The emergency session in Geneva was chaos. Presidents shouted over prime ministers. Generals demanded options that didn't exist. The few ships Earth had were museum pieces compared to Zarkith technology. We have to consider their terms, the Secretary General said, his voice hollow. We can't win this fight. That's when Marcus Hale stood up. At 62, the general looked like he'd been carved from granite and tempered in war. Veterans of the Mars Rebellion still spoke his name in whispers. He'd been forcibly retired after the Istanbul incident, too aggressive for peacetime, they'd said. Too willing to cross lines. Now he walked to the podium with the measured steps of a man who'd made his decision long ago. Madam Secretary, distinguished delegates, he began, his voice cutting through the panic. You're right. We can't win this fight. Not the way they expect us to fight it. Then you agree we should, eh? I agree that the Zarkith have made a mistake. Hale's eyes swept the room. They think we're sheep because we chose peace. They forgot that Earth didn't become peaceful because we're weak. We became peaceful because we got too good at war. He turned to the camera broadcasting to the Zarkith fleet. You want our surrender? Come and take it. You want to burn our world? Bring matches. You want war. His voice dropped to something between a growl and a promise. We'll give you a war. The transmission ended. The room erupted. But Hale was already walking out, activating his earpiece. Phoenix Protocol is now active. Wake up, Ares. Dust off the orbital platforms. And somebody get me a fleet. Sir, we only have 47 combat-capable ships. Then we'll make do with 47. The Spartans had 300. Earth's transformation took 18 hours. Mothballed weapons platforms powered up after decades of silence. Civilian factories retooled with terrifying efficiency, car plants started producing drone fighters, pharmaceutical labs switched to manufacturing combat stims, and every satellite with a laser became a weapon. Deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain, technicians initialized a system that hadn't been active since the AI Accords banned military artificial intelligence. Ares came online with a question that chilled everyone in the room. How many do we need to kill? All of them, Hale replied without hesitation. The Zarkith arrived expecting a parade ground surrender. Their fleet moved in perfect formation, a textbook approach that had crushed 5 worlds. They broadcast demands for Earth's leaders to present themselves for execution. Instead, they got silence. Then space around them went insane. Holographic fleets appeared from 17 different vectors, perfect copies of Earth ships that drew immediate fire. The Zarkith obliterated them only to discover each hologram was wrapped around a nuclear mine. Their shields, configured for energy weapons, did nothing against old-fashioned atomic fury. From the asteroid belt, modified mining drones accelerated to 20% light speed, becoming kinetic missiles. Earth's ancient satellite network revealed its true purpose, each one a disguised weapons platform that had been waiting 30 years for this moment. Ares infiltrated Zarkith systems with algorithms that turned their own ships into enemies. Navigation systems developed opinions. Weapons arrays discovered pacifism. Life support decided oxygen was optional. The Zarkith commander screamed for order, for formation, for the disciplined warfare that had won them an empire. Marcus Hale, watching from the command station on Luna, smiled coldly. Ares, execute Ragnarok protocol. With pleasure, General. Every piece of space debris larger than a pebble in Earth's orbit suddenly accelerated, guided by microthrusters that had been quietly installed over decades. 10 million projectiles moving at velocities that turned trash into artillery. The Zarkith fleet found itself in a blender of hypersonic shrapnel. But humanity wasn't done. Fighter pilots who'd been training in simulators since childhood launched in craft held together by spite and determination. They flew like madmen, like berserkers, like people with nothing to lose and everything to prove. Sir, the Zarkith flagship is trying to retreat, an officer reported. Hale's response was immediate. No, they don't get to run. Not after threatening our home. All ships pursue and destroy. Leave no survivors. The battle became a hunt. Earth's wolves had tasted blood, and they wanted more. The last Zarkith dreadnought, pride of their fleet, tried to jump to hyperspace. 40 Earth fighters latched onto its hull like parasites, overloading their reactors simultaneously. The explosion was visible from Mars. In 4 hours, the Zarkith Dominion's proudest fleet became a debris field stretching from Earth to Jupiter. Not a single Earth city had been touched. The casualty ratio was so lopsided that military historians would spend decades arguing about whether it qualified as a battle or an execution. The aftermath sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Zarkith Dominion, which had never known defeat, retreated to their core worlds and sealed their borders. Former enemies of Earth sent alliance proposals. The Galactic Council suddenly discovered Earth's membership application that had been lost for 50 years. Marcus Hale stood before Earth's people 1 week later, the debris of the Zarkith fleet still glittering in the night sky like artificial stars. They came to her door with threats. They demanded our surrender. They thought we'd forgotten how to fight. He paused, letting the weight settle. We showed them that Earth doesn't start wars. But by God, we finished them. The speech went down in history, but it was his final line that became legend, quoted in military academies across the galaxy, whispered by those who thought to test humanity's resolve. To anyone else thinking of threatening Earth, remember this moment. Remember what happened when the Zarkith said they wanted war. Because we don't just fight wars, we end civilizations that start them. And we're very, very good at it. Years later, when alien species spoke of Earth, they no longer called it a primitive world or a minor power. They used a different phrase, one born from the wreckage of 300 warships. Earth, where wars go to die. But in the bars where soldiers gathered, in the quiet corners where truth lived, they remembered Marcus Hale's words differently. They remembered the moment humanity stopped pretending to be prey. They remembered 5 words that turned victims into victors. You want war? We'll give you a war. And the galaxy learned a simple truth that Earth had always known. Never threaten someone who's been practicing for the apocalypse their entire history. Because when you ask for war, they don't give you the one you expected, they give you the one you deserve.